Recently, a bass student of mine came to me and asked me if he thought that his bass technique was holding him back. He was concerned about the angle of his hand and wondered whether he should work on this. So that got me thinking, is there an exact plucking technique that you should be using on the bass in terms of efficiency, speed and tone, and should you stick to that exact technique? The standard way of plucking bass is to use two fingers, your first and second fingers, and use the pads of your fingers to anchor your thumb on the bass or the E string when you're not using it, and to alternate your fingers, okay, like this. So that's the kind of standard plucking technique. This is a really good starting point, but is it important to have your hand at this exact angle, or can you move it to help you to play faster or to get a better tone? These are the questions that I'm going to answer in this video. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you close-ups of 6 iconic famous bass players, close-ups of their plucking hand, and we're going to see if there's a kind of standard plucking technique that they all use. These famous bass players are all masters of their trade, and I've picked some bass solos and some faster playing from them because this is when they need to be most efficient with their plucking technique, so we can really get a close-up and see what's going on. This is Marcus Miller warming up before a gig. He's got what I call a fairly standard plucking technique. So he's got his thumb here anchored on the bass and on the E string. He's using his two fingers here, okay, and plucking towards him. Now you might have noticed that he angles his hand in like this a bit more. Uses the sides of his fingers when he's playing fast, okay, and that's a kind of common technique. It's a really good technique when you want to play faster. It seems to help. It's similar to guitarists with a pick. They kind of lean in as well that direction when they want to play faster. So you can try that yourself if you're plucking just to say a C like that. You can try and move your hand in and see if that helps you to play faster, okay? Okay, so try that yourself. If you're enjoying this video, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel. You can do that by pressing the red subscribe button in the corner of the screen. And also, if you click the bell and select all, you'll get notified as soon as I release a new lesson. This is a great clip of Verdine White having an absolute ball at a gig. He was one of the founding members of the band Earth, Wind and Fire. His technique is also fairly traditional. He's anchoring his thumb, he's got his two fingers out like this, and he's also leaning into the strings, angling his hand slightly to play faster. Also note that his elbow's up, okay? Like that, okay? You see that as well. I find that helps me to play faster, okay? His elbow kind of comes up to help to lean into those strings and to play faster, okay? A lot of bass players kind of rest on the bass, but when they're playing faster, lean the elbow out. Verdine is also almost slapping the strings at times to get a more percussive sound, okay? But for the most part, he's plucking towards him with the pads of his fingers. This is a very 80s looking and bearded Nathan East, session bassist to the stars. He's got a really interesting technique. He anchors his thumb again on the bass and on the strings, but he has all his fingers out, okay? At one point, I think he's using 3 fingers for the real fast bits there, okay? So that is a technique that you can do. I don't actually use that a lot, but I know some bass players do. So they use all 3 fingers, but he's definitely got his kind of hand out more like this. Okay. So that's just his technique really. He's not got the 2 fingers out like that. It's got his kind of whole hand, and he's probably using his fingers for muting as well. Some players can use kind of these 2 fingers for muting. It helps to get a better tone. But he does occasionally go to 2 fingers, and he kind of uses his nails a bit more to get a more percussive sound. And his elbows definitely out and up when he's playing faster. This is George Porter Jr. From the Meters, one of the original members of the Meters. This is him playing a solo at a gig. So we can see his plucking hand there. His fingers are more bent, his hands a bit more closed, okay? But he's got his thumb out at an angle as well. He definitely plays with the size of his fingers, and sometimes he actually flicks with his whole hand. He gets a really nice sounding, warm and big sound, and as the saying goes, the tone is definitely in the fingers. This is Pino Palladino, really great player. He's playing fretless here. I would say that this is quite a traditional plucking technique with his thumb anchored on the strings and the bass and the 2 fingers out, but he actually angles his hands the other way, his hand the other way, so it's kind of slightly like that. So he's kind of plucking like that, okay? This is kind of standard. This is leaning into the strings. He kind of plays a little bit more that way. Okay, now you do play differently on a fretless bass. So you can produce kind of slightly different variations of tones. So he's a very versatile player. So I'm sure that he'd adapt his plucking hand slightly for different styles and different gigs. But also Pino's very tall, he's got long fingers, so that might be another reason for him kind of moving his hand round slightly. It might be just something that he's automatically done as he's kind of developed his playing style. This is Darryl Jones. I love his playing. He played in Sting's first solo band. He's also played with Miles Davis. He's very versatile, and now he plays with the Rolling Stones. He's got a similar plucking technique in a way to Nathan East. He's got all his fingers out. He's got his thumb more at an angle, kind of bent like that. He puts a lot of force through the strings. He gets a great sound. And he definitely leans more into the strings for faster licks. So after looking at all these 6 iconic bass players, we can see similarities between their techniques of their plucking hand. So one thing is they all anchor their thumb on the bass or the E string when they're not using it. Now I've focused on that a bit in this video because I think it's important to talk about, because nowadays floating thumb seems to be a kind of trendy thing that everyone's asking, should they use that? Now, it's a great technique, but it's a more advanced technique, especially for soloing, that kind of thing. So first of all, I'd recommend anchoring your thumb on the bass or on the E string. All these players have a great tone, and they achieve this by using the pads of their fingers mainly, and by plucking towards them this way, okay, across the strings, rather than plucking out. Okay, so if you find yourself kind of plucking out, apart from if you're slapping, then try and adjust that and see if you can kind of use rest strokes where you rest on the string below it, okay, like that, and then make sure that you pluck towards you. But as we saw, all 6 players had variations in their plucking style. So my advice to you would be to learn the basic technique, but then adjust it to suit your own personal kind of ergonomics. There will be variations in technique due to the size of your hands, the length of your fingers, the flexibility of your thumb, mine bends a lot, the flexibility of your wrist, and many other factors. Okay, so you'll have to adjust the technique to really suit yourself. Also try leaning into the strings to play faster, okay? That's a really good kind of technique, okay? And lifting your elbow up, okay? My little finger seems to come out a little bit when I'm playing really fast. You don't have to do that, okay? But ultimately, if things are working well for you with your plucking technique, then you don't need to change anything. If things are holding you back, if you consistently can't play certain tricky passages, then you might need to look at your plucking technique. But I believe that technique should evolve as you're playing more bass lines. So you will have problems at the beginning if you're a beginner player, which can't play as fast as you want to, and you'll find things tricky. So that will kind of evolve as you play the bass more. If you're looking for exercises to practice different techniques on the bass, then check out my warm-up book for bass players. I've put a link below in the description, or it's on my website, gbshed.com. There are loads of exercises there that kind of focus on techniques that you'll find commonly in bass lines. And these exercises are great to do as a warm-up before your practice sessions. So the link is below in the description. Well, I hope that you enjoyed this video and checking out how all these iconic bass players pluck. Let me know in the comments what you thought. If you like this style of video, I'll do more of them. So yeah, just leave me a comment below this video. And if you felt you got value out of this lesson, you can always buy me a coffee. They're $5. The details are at the bottom of the screen, or the links are below in the description. And don't forget to help me out by liking and sharing this video. And don't forget also to subscribe to my channel. You can check out loads more bass resources at my website, gbshed.com. Link again is in the description. I've got courses, t-shirts, my book over there, and loads of other stuff for bass players. So that's gbshed.com. This is Greg from Greg's Bass Shed. Hopefully see you very soon in the next video.